Welcome, everyone. We'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Old Colony Metropolitan Planning Organization to order. My name is Derek Cravat. I'll be serving as chair today, representing MassDOT Secretary Monica Tibbetts-Nutt. First item on the agenda is just to read the meeting accessibility statements, and then we'll get into the roll call. So turn it over to Charlie.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Stand by. This meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Microphones or telephones will be used by all speakers. If you would like these accommodations, please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833. Thank you. The notice of non-discrimination rights and protections to beneficiaries with regard to the federal Title VI non-discrimination protections and the state non-discrimination protections is included on this meeting's agenda and is available on the Old Colony Planning Council website at http://oldcolonyplanning.org/. Please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833 for more information. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, Charlie. With that, I think we can move on to the roll call.
Yes, Derek Cravat.
Yep, Derek Cravat here, representing MassDOT Secretary and CEO Monica Tibbetts-Nutt.
Richard Bilski.
Yeah, Richard Bilski, representing Administrator Jonathan Gulliver.
John Messia.
Yes, John Messia, representing the City of Brockton.
James Downey. Michael Perez. He's in the attendee mode, but he might be muted.
Here, I'm just going to ask him to unmute.
Michael Perez, West Bridgewater, attendee. Hey, my camera's off.
Thank you, Michael. Welcome. Dan Salvucci.
Present.
Michael Lambert.
Present.
And Becky Coletta.
Present on behalf of Old Colony Planning Council.
And then on the ex officio members, we have Noreen O'Toole, Old Colony Joint Transportation Committee. FTA Region 1, Peter Butler. And then, okay, thank you. And Federal Highway Massachusetts Division, Joy Singh. Chair, we do have a quorum present.
All right, great. Welcome, everyone. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is public comments. Is there anyone present that would like to make a public comment at this time? All right, seeing none, if you do have any comments during the meeting, you can use the raise hand function through the reactions button on Zoom, or you can use the chat and we'll be sure to call on you. We'll move on to the next item, which is meeting minutes from March 19th, 2024. I'll ask for a motion and second to approve the March meeting minutes.
I'll motion Dan Salvucci Whitman.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, thank you. Seconded by John Messia. Are there any comments or questions on the minutes? All right, seeing none, go ahead and call the roll, Charlie.
Derek Cravat.
Yes.
Richard Bilski.
Abstain.
John Messia.
Yes.
James Downey.
Abstain.
Michael Perez. I think he might be on mute.
Sorry about that. What was the question again, Charles?
We have a probably second motion on the floor to accept the minutes of the previous MPO meeting of March 19th.
So I accept. Sorry, having a little issues here.
Yeah. James Downey. I mean, Dan Salvucci, I'm sorry.
Accept.
Mike Lambert.
Yes.
Becky Coletta.
Accept.
Thank you. Motion carries with 2 abstentions.
All right, great. Thanks, everyone. Move on to the next item, which is an update from the Brockton Area Transit Authority. Mike.
Thank you very much. Nothing too much new to report here. We are watching the budget process up at the State House very carefully. And so far, things are looking good for regional transit. We continue to increase ridership. In March, we exceeded our pre-COVID numbers, so March of 2019, in other words, by 25%. Great to see. And we're hoping to keep building on that as the weather gets better and people are out and about more, and we continue to offer free service. Also, our Rockland Microtransit service continues to grow. We did 40 trips a couple days ago, which is a new high for us and represents double what the old fixed route was doing. So we're happy to see that. Finally, if anyone is attending, we'll be presenting along with Lowell Regional Transit and Worcester Regional Transit at the MassDOT Innovation Conference coming up shortly. So hope to see you all there.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Any questions for Mike? Great. We'll move on to an update from GATRA. Mary Ellen?
Hi, thank you. Like Mike, we are watching the budget process unfold at the State House and remain optimistic. We have moved all of our scheduling to a new platform, and it's been operating for about a month now, and we're getting very positive feedback, both from the operation side, but also from the customer side, that they're finding it easy to use. So we think that is something that will help us continue to grow in the future. GATRA's been working with MassDOT and AECom to revamp and update the Ride Match website. It was a website that GATRA started many years ago, and then MassDOT kind of helped us move it forward. The new version of the site is live with a cleaner design and is fully integrated into Google Transit search results, and it's completely accessible. So we're very excited about that. Our next regional public meeting for service changes that we would make for June 1st will be held on April 25th. And that is my report.
Great. Thanks, Mary Ellen. Any questions for Mary Ellen? All right, thank you. We'll move on to the next item, which is a transportation improvement program amendment. I will turn it over to Bill.
Thank you, Derek. So today we have an amendment for your consideration to go out to a public review and comment period. This would be the third amendments to the FFY 2024 to 2028 TIP. So without further ado, go to the next page and I'll show you what those changes are. So we've had three changes in programmed projects in FFY 2024. So the first and foremost, in Brockton, intersection improvements at Route 123 Center Street and Plymouth Street. Unfortunately, that project is not ready to be advertised this year. So you can see that that project will be moved to next year, FFY 2025. That changes the program value for this year to 0, and we're looking for ways to use those unprogrammed funds, either flex it to FTA if BAT is able to use it, or MassDOT could use it in other regional projects. But that project moves to FFY 2025, and then just up the road from there, we have intersection improvements and related work at Route 1 Center Street, Route 123, at Carey Street and Lyman Street. We've had a cost increase on that. You can see the project cost is going up to about $3.38 million. That's a cost increase of about $873,000, and that does trigger the threshold for an amendment. And then in Plimpton, the bridge replacement project, the Winnetoxet Road Bridge over the Winnetoxet River, the cost has increased on that project to just over $1 million. On these two projects, that the intersection project at Route 123 at Route 123 at Carey and Lyman, and the Plimpton Bridge these are program with statewide funds, so these cost increases do not affect the overall regional target. And then here's just advance a page. And then here you can see the tip revisions report. It just kind of summarizes puts what I just talked about in a more technical format, and that's included in the tip amendment that will go out for a public review and comment period. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, or if not, then I would ask this board to consider releasing this amendment to a 21-day public review and comment period.
Great. Thank you, Bill. So before asking for a motion to release, I just want to see if there's any questions on the amendment as presented.
I would move that we release the tip revisions to public review and comment.
All
I'll
right.
second it,
Thank you,
Dan
Becky.
Salvucci.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Any questions or comments on the amendment? All right. Seeing none, go ahead and call the roll.
So Derek Cravat,
Yes.
Richard Bilski,
Yes.
John Messia,
Yes.
James Downey,
Yes.
Michael Perez.
Approve as presented.
Thank you. Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Mike Lambert,
Yes.
and Becky Coletta. Becky, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I had a problem using a feature.
Oh.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Move on to the next item, which is the fiscal year 2025 to 2029 Transportation Improvement Program. To go over this tip and vote to release the full tip for public comment. So I'll turn it back over to Bill to walk us through this one.
Thank you, Derek. So yeah, it's that exciting time of year. We're going to release our draft FFY 25 to 29 2029 tip to public review and comment period. I'll note that this is our most robust tip to date, with nearly $300 million in investments in highway and transit in the region. You can see in the bottom of your screen there that about 235 million or so in highway and bridge projects, which covers 17 roadway projects and 6 bridge replacement projects, and then nearly $63 million in capital and operational assistance to Brockton area transit, which would include electrification of the system, which goes a long way to our greenhouse gas reduction goals. So this is a really exciting tip, and I'll go in the next few pages. I'll go through at least on the highway side what's included in this. You'll recall from the previous meeting that we went through a iteration process of developing multiple funding scenarios for highway and transit projects in the region. We ultimately selected one preferred set of projects at our last meeting, and so these projects included in this tip represent what was selected at as a preferred set of projects at the last MPO meeting. So in FFY 25, you can see that project that moved out from 2024 that I spoke about in the last agenda item, Plymouth Street at Center Street at Plymouth Street, that is advertised on, not advertised, that's programmed for next year, and that is at 25% design stage. In Easton, we have corridor improvements on Route 138 that includes the intersection of Route 138 and Elm Street. That is at the 100% design stage. And in Stoughton, corridor improvements on Route 138. This is phase 2 of the project that's currently underway and part of Route 138. So, and this is at the 100% design stage. FFY 2026, you can see in Abington, we have intersection improvements at Hancock Street and Chestnut Street. That is at the 25% design stage. In Avon, we have intersection improvements at Route 28, Spring Street, and Harrison Boulevard. That project is still currently in the preliminary design phase. And in Brockton, we have intersection improvements at Summer Street, Lyman and Grove, and this includes the replacement of the Grove Street Bridge. And that project is at the 25% design stage. In FFY 2027, we have in Abington intersection improvements at Randolph Street and Chestnut Street. That is in the preliminary design stage. In Duxbury, we have the bridge replacement of the Powder Point Avenue Bridge. This is advanced construction over multiple years, beginning in 2027. In Kingston and Duxbury, we have the intersection improvements at the highway ramps between Route 3A and Route 3, and that is in the preliminary design stage. In FFY 2028, we have in Abington intersection improvements at Route 18 and Route 123. That is in the preliminary design stage. In Brockton, so going forward, all these projects are in the preliminary design stage. In Brockton, we have intersection improvements at Route 123 at Pearl Street and Stonehill Street. In Duxbury, we have bridge replacement. That'd be the second year of the advanced construction of the Powder Point Avenue Bridge. In Duxbury, we also have intersection improvements at at Route 53 and Franklin Street. In Hanover, we have intersection improvements. Route 139, this is in the town center there. At Main Street, Silver Street, and Center Street. In Brockton, we have in Kingston, we have bridge replacement, the Smiths Lane Bridge over Route 38. In Stoughton, we have intersection improvements at Canton Street, School Street, and Summer Street. And then in their new program year, the tail end of this program of this TIP, FFY 2029. So in Bridgewater, we have a bridge replacement project, or I should say bridge rehab project, Vernon Street Bridge over the Taunton River. In over multiple communities, Brockton and Abington, we have the first year of advanced construction for the project for pedestrian and bicycle improvements on Route 123. In Duxbury, we have the third year of the advanced construction project for Powder Point Avenue Bridge. In East Bridgewater, intersection improvements at Route 18 and Highland Street. Also in East Bridgewater, bridge replacement project up Pond Street Bridge over the Setauket River. In Hanover, intersection improvements at Route 53, which is Columbia Road and Broadway. In Stoughton, intersection improvements at Route 27, which is Park Street and Turnpike Street. And finally, in West Bridgewater, a bridge replacement on 4th Street over the Town River. So this the draft TIP document was distributed to all the MPO board members for their review. Hopefully you had a chance to look at it. I know it's kind of a big document, but the draft TIP is physically constrained. It does demonstrate greenhouse gas reduction throughout the 5-year program life of the TIP. It meets all our performance targets for going forward. So we feel good about this this TIP, and I'm here to answer any questions right now, or if not, then I'd ask this board to consider releasing this to a public review and comment period.
Great, thank you, Bill. Any questions for Bill on the draft TIP document? Right, I don't see any questions. So with that, I will ask for a motion and second to release the draft fiscal year 25 to 29 TIP out for a 21-day public review and comment period.
I'll make that motion, Dan from Whitman.
Thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. Thank you, Becky. Motion having been made and seconded. Go ahead and call the roll.
Derek Cravath,
Yes.
Richard Bilski,
Yes.
John Messiah,
Yes.
James Downey,
Yes.
Michael Perez,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Michael Lambert,
Yes.
Becky Coletta.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks,
Great.
everyone.
Thank you, Bill, and great job this year and every year on the tip. It's always I know a lot of work, so well done to Bill and Charlie and staff on getting that done, and looking forward to continue the work with you to get that coordinated and implemented, so projects can keep moving. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yep. With that, we'll move on to a couple other kind of more administrative items here on just ensuring compliance with the Global Warming Solutions Act, and then I think the self-certification statement. So I believe this is Charlie.
Yes, Chair. Thank you. So this is as you mentioned, is an administrative item, but it's important that this is updated on an annual basis to make sure that we capture any updates that might be in these self-certification statements. There are two of them before the board today. One is the Global Warming Solutions Act requirements for transportation, and that's Massachusetts specifics. And on the federal side, there's one for the Metropolitan transportation planning process. And these are important because they get considered every time TIPs are reviewed by the federal and state partners, because they check to make sure these are up to date. And it's also important on the MPO side that as you're going through a certification review, they make sure that you have all the latest and greatest self-certifications endorsed and on file. So the first one we'll just spotlight for you today is the Global Warming Solutions Act requirement for transportation. And so one of the things, at its outset is to, evaluate for all the TIP projects and report out on the related greenhouse gas emissions impact of the long-range plan and the TIP. And as you heard Bill McNulty talk about earlier, these TIP projects actually reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And so in the TIP itself, these are reported on in a list, and it gives a net reduction. So next slide. And 2 through 9 tells folks how we're going to do the process, how we coordinate with MassDOT and the regional partners and the like. And on the next slide, some more final assessment information. And basically, we wouldn't be to this point if Bill hadn't already done all the work on this. So, happy to report that from the staff's assessment that we're in compliance with the Greenhouse Gas and Global Warming Solutions Act. So willing to entertain any questions, and would request an MPO consideration of endorsement.
Thanks, Charlie. Any questions on the Global Warming Solutions Act certification? Right. And you're looking for a vote, right, Charlie, to endorse this?
Yes, please.
Yep. Okay. So I'll ask for a motion and second to endorse this certification statement for greenhouse gas assessment in the 25-29 TIP.
I'll do a motion to accept. I'll second Dan from Whitman.
Okay, thank you. Motion made by James Downey from Plymouth and seconded by Dan. Go ahead and call the roll.
Derek Cravath,
Yes.
Richard Bilski,
Yes.
John Messiah,
Yes.
James Downey,
Yes.
Michael Perez,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Michael Lambert,
Yes.
and Becky Coletta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Great. Thank you, everyone. I believe we
And
have one other certification statement, this one on the MPO process. So turn it back to you, Charlie.
Thank you, Chair. So as the chair mentioned, this is one for the overall Metropolitan transportation planning process. And I believe there are 11 items. And, number one, I like just to point out 23 US Code 134 and US Code 49. These are the hallmark overarching metropolitan planning regs, whether it's on the federal highway side or on the federal transit side. And it goes into depth on how MPOs are to develop long-range plans, transportation improvement programs, the makeup of the board. And this is a big overarching, a big number one, even though it's a short on text on number one. But happy to say that it was less than a year ago we went through a certification review and we passed and were certified for another 4 years. So with all of these things, from the staff perspective, like to report that in our analysis and opinion that we're in compliance with all 11 items. But as we go through, beyond the metropolitan planning regs themselves, what's important about these regs too, it embeds the prohibition of discrimination based on race, color, creed, national origin, sex, age, and employment or business practices. And it goes through different things of preventing discrimination and also enacting provisions of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And there's also a provision, I believe it's number 11 on the next page, that has a anti-lobbying provision. So, from our report and from the certification review, staff analysis that we're in compliance with all of these and would recommend a MPO endorsement.
Thank you, Charlie. Any questions on this one, the MPO self-certification? All right, seeing none, I'll ask for a motion and second to endorse this certification as presented by Charlie.
I'll make that motion, Dan from Whitman.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it, James Downey from Plymouth.
All right, thank you both. Go ahead and call the roll, Charlie.
Sure. Derek Krabat,
Yes.
Richard Bilski,
Yes.
John Messia,
Yes.
James Downey,
Yes.
Michael Perez,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Michael Lambert,
Yes.
and Becky Coletta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
All right, great. Thank you, everyone. We move on to the next item, which I'll be covering. This is Beyond Mobility, which is a statewide long-range transportation plan for MassDOT. I do have a presentation that I'm happy to share on my screen for. I think I just need the permissions there. And I can walk folks through quickly our statewide long-range transportation plan, which is currently out for public review and comment until the first week of June. I will just give a quick overview of what is in the plan and go over some of the content just so folks are aware of what we're saying and have some background on it. But we are required by federal law and some state regulations to develop a statewide long-range transportation plan on a regular basis. The last one we did was we moved Massachusetts in 2014, so almost 10 years ago now. So definitely overdue for an update of this plan. The plan is called Beyond Mobility. We're calling that to reflect the idea of thinking about transportation, not for the sake of transportation, but in the name of providing access to opportunities and different destinations that people need to get to. So sort of a shift in thinking from, again, just moving for the sake of moving and moving toward access. I think this is the comment period just got extended. Actually, the last bullet point says May 5th, but this should be corrected. It's actually, I think, now going to be June 4th. So there's going to be additional time. It's quite a long document. I think it's 167 pages. So we do have an executive summary posted as well on the website listed there for folks to check out. But the plan is part of a larger overall strategy at MassDOT called MassDOT at 15. We are turning 15 years old as a transportation agency this year on November 1st. So our leadership has begun this initiative known as MassDOT at 15, which combines 3 kind of overarching initiatives or strategies. One is the long-range plan beyond mobility, and that will be what we do. It will define a vision for the future of transportation in Massachusetts. The other component is the strategic business plan. There's an RFP out right now for folks to develop a strategic business plan for MassDOT, which will really define staffing needs for implementing what we are saying is our vision. And then the third, which folks may be familiar with, is this Transportation Funding Task Force, which Governor Healy has created and has appointed our secretary as the chair of, and other members to this. So this task force will be meeting monthly over the course of this year, and by the end of this year, we'll be presenting recommendations about funding transportation. So taken together, Beyond Mobility defines what MassDOT does, the business plan defines kind of who we are as an agency, and then the funding task force will define how we pay for future initiatives and sort of the next generation of transportation funding. I want to just say this plan is really important. This presentation focuses on Beyond Mobility, but I just wanted to mention that it does touch on those other things, that they're all part of the same overall strategy. But Beyond Mobility is a strategic plan. It, of course, is definitely overlaps with other regional plans. So this diagram here, Beyond Mobility would fall in that strategic kind of direction box at the top of planning, where we define what our goals are, performance measures. And then on the bottom left there, where it says investment plan, resource allocation, and program of projects, that's kind of the more collaborative effort where we have our state transportation improvement program, and we work with all of you at the regional level and municipal level to actually kind of go from, here's what we're saying our strategy and goals are. How does this translate into projects? And that's, of course, a very collaborative effort that we work with multiple stakeholders on. We've been doing a lot of public outreach for the last 2 years or so when the project began. So we've been really combining a lot of what we've been hearing from our surveys, our kind of pop-up activations, which you can see a photo of on the screen here, as well as working with MassDOT staff and MBTA and other regional planning and regional transit agency staff on kind of what the vision should be for the future of transportation. So we're kind of combining data on what we're hearing from the public. We've heard over 5,000 pieces of unique feedback, and combining that with kind of a more quantitative needs assessment on what we know the challenges are in transportation. So here's just a flavor of what we're hearing. Overwhelmingly, when people, when we asked what people thought would make a great transportation system, we heard, the ability to get around without a car kind of over and over again. We heard the importance of safe, separated kind of bicycle infrastructure, better sidewalk coverage, improved bicycle and pedestrian connections to transit stations really emerged as an important theme. And then wayfinding near transit stations, sometimes as simple as needing to know where, the bus stop was, or where the, sort of where the train station was. More frequent bus and commuter rail service and passenger rail options also were really key themes. So again, this is just a flavor of what we heard. We heard a lot of different feedback, but these are some of the themes. And then we took all of that and all the analysis we did, and we've developed these 6 overarching priority areas, which we then kind of reflect all of what we heard in the public feedback that can fall under at least one of these categories. So these are the 6 priority areas for Beyond Mobility. They're safety, reliability, clean transportation, destination connectivity, resiliency, and travel experience. And then we're considering social and geographic equity and financial and staffing resources as kind of cross-cutting themes that underlie all 6. And the plan is really structured by these 6 areas. Each of these in the plan has a dedicated vision statement for it. So we have a safety vision, reliability vision, for example, a set of values associated with it, and then a series of action items that respond directly to problems that we heard. So the next few slides just give a sense of what we're saying. There's over 100 action items and many more problem statements in the plan. But this is just to give you a flavor of what those are for each of the priority areas. So for safety, for example, this is how the plan is structured. We know that we have a significant problem in that 142 of our top 200 pedestrian crash cluster locations are in environmental justice communities. We know that there's been historic underinvestment in these communities, our gateway cities, in EJ areas statewide, and you can definitely see it play out in the data. Right, there's significantly less safe roadways and intersections in those communities, and so. In addition to working with folks on kind of fast tracking grant applications for new federal programs like Safe Streets and Roads for All, which we've been coordinating on, we're calling for a dedicated program in our capital investment plan that would really prioritize addressing safety concerns in our gateway cities. When it comes to reliability, we've quantified a problem statement here that people have to plan for commutes taking up to 8 times longer during peak periods than they do during free flow conditions. So obviously a major concern. I think there's a sense that we are at a crisis point when it comes to predictability of travel times and getting around, especially during peak periods. And this is regardless of mode, right? If you're traveling, via transit, we all know there's been a lot of delays lately and slow zones, speed restrictions, et cetera, as well as using roadways. So our action items here that correspond to this issue have to do with better coordination between our highway division, the regional transit authorities, and the MBTA to look at where we can maybe put in roadway infrastructure improvements that will sort of center on transit priority, whether that's bus lanes or smart use of bus lanes, right? Not bus lanes for the sake of them, but really targeting improvements there on our roadways that involve coordination between transit and highway. And then thinking about kind of bold solutions, our secretary and others have called for a study of kind of congestion pricing and its impact on vehicle miles traveled. So this is certainly not something that we're committing to. It's just a sort of starting point to study the issue of pricing, right, and how that would impact vehicle miles traveled, how it might sort of how much money that would raise. And I think that's being looked into as part of the funding task force as well. But we're being consistent with that and stating that we are going to be studying that as an option. With clean transportation, we know that transportation is the largest contributor of carbon emissions in Massachusetts. So we're restating our electrification goals. These have been established through the Clean Energy and Climate Plan, Energy Environmental Affairs, and other state agencies. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel there when it comes to what our goals and targets are for things like electrification. But we are saying in the plan that transportation is only one kind of component of our larger climate goals, and we need to be coordinated when it comes to land use. We need to encourage transit-oriented development and be smart about kind of sort of the relationship between transportation, economic development, and land use. And we are calling for a study that would look at that, especially in areas where there's passenger rail being expanded. Where is there opportunity to maybe do land use or zoning reform to encourage more transit-oriented or denser housing and development near those passenger rail and expanded kind of transit options. So that's something we're looking at in that area. On destination connectivity, we know that there's actually fewer planned pedestrian and bicycle investments in our environmental justice communities statewide, even though those areas also have more potential for biking and walking according to our bike plan. So similar to the safety program where we're calling for a dedicated program in our capital plan, we're calling for another one here that would really focus on funding projects that provide first and last mile connections to transit and using our tool that we're developing called the Next Gen Bike and Pedestrian Vision Mapping. We're looking at gaps in the statewide network for bicycle and sort of sidewalk networks and safe and separated bicycle infrastructure. We're looking at making sure we have a dedicated program in our capital plan to fund those gaps in the network and really make sure they're focused on getting people to important destinations like transit. This is resiliency. Our problem statement. We know that significant infrastructure is exposed to natural hazards. We all saw the storms, I think, last fall in north central Massachusetts. This is an image of that here, I believe, in Leominster, where massive kind of chunks of roadway were washed away due to flooding, and so both roadway and transit infrastructure is sort of at risk there. So there's been a lot of work on this lately. There's Resilient Mass, which EEA had done in coordination with other agencies. There's been vulnerability assessments performed at both MassDOT and the MBTA. So we're articulating a lot of that here. One new action item we have is for, again, improved coordination. The Massachusetts Climate Chief Melissa Hoffer put out a report, I believe in October, that called for what's called a whole of government approach to addressing the climate crisis. And so we're looking at ways we can collaborate with our partners, and specifically here, the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program, where EEA gets in applications for municipal improvements that would address resiliency and improve that in key areas. So we have funding at MassDOT devoted to resiliency as well, and we're looking to coordinate with them on partnerships there. The last priority area here is travel experience. So this kind of encompasses just the ease of getting around. We heard from people with disabilities and people who speak English as a second language in particular, report that wayfinding around transit stations and information sort of about transportation options, whether that's sort of medical transportation or community transportation, especially for people that do not have a car, was a real need in our state. So we're calling for a study that would inventory bus stops and transit stations that lack sufficient wayfinding signage, and where there's concentrations of those in areas that we know we have higher concentrations of people with limited English proficiency who may need sort of improved real-time information or signage on where transit goes, and sort of better trip planning in general tools for folks there. So that's the example there. And this is the last slide. This just shows that, again, we're out for public comment. This is the correct date on this one, that June 4th, 2024. mass.gov/beyond-mobility is where you can go to view the full plan and executive summary and all of our appendices to the plan, as well as submit a comment. We have a comment form listed on our website as well. And we're excited to share it, excited to see what we get in for comments. And again, that will be open through June 4th. So that's the last slide, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you for the attention. Yeah, I see a couple of hands. So Dan, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much, Dan from Whitman. We just had our MBTA advisory board meeting, and the general manager, Mr. Ng, came on and did a presentation. And one of the things that I was concerned about is what I've noticed in my town is with the train station, when the gates are down to prevent traffic from going across the track, safety issue. I have seen people because of the length that the gates are down and the train is sitting in the station, I have seen people riding their bike and going around the gates, not understanding that the gate may be down due to the fact that there may be a train coming the opposite direction. I've seen people push a carriage around a gate because they don't want to wait.
Yep.
I've also seen when you push a button across the street, the time is to the point where sometimes it takes long for the double, the red and the yellow light to come on to allow people to cross. And you have people crossing because they don't see any traffic coming. I wish maybe we have a timing issue with safety issues and an educational issue, teaching people the right and wrong way of doing things. I know that we're doing bump outs in intersections so that the distance between crossing the street is less, which is a good thing. But sometimes people do not want to wait for the red and yellow light or for the walk signal to come on, and they'll walk across the street if they don't see, they think they have enough room to get across. I think it's an educational problem.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And yeah, I think on the first one, so I know our rail division does a lot on sort of inventorying at-grade rail crossings, and there's actually funding that's specifically meant for that purpose, and we're looking for new ways to use that. So that we do mention that in the plan. We I think quantify the number of at-grade rail crossings, and which ones are signalized and which ones kind of need attention. So that's definitely something we are looking into, and definitely need, I think, a better bench of projects that address that issue, because you're right, it's definitely one that we see a lot of. And then, yeah, on the second point, we do have a lot in there as well for our registry of motor vehicles on education, especially, what you're saying might not necessarily fall under the umbrella of driver's education, but there's a lot in there about like
Right.
amending the, driver's ed curriculum and things like that. So they're doing a lot of thinking around education right now too. And that's a good suggestion that we can certainly bring back on sort of pedestrian. And I've seen that plenty of times as well. So it's always scary.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bill?
Yep. Thanks, Derek. That's a great presentation. Just wanted to commend you all on such a great plan. This is clearly a truly comprehensive plan, and it's obvious how much care and detail has gone into it. And I just wanted to echo that during the during your public outreach process and the development process for this also coincided with the development of the regional plans across the Commonwealth, including the Old Colony long range, the regional Old Colony long range plan. And a lot of coordination went in between MassDOT and the regions to make sure there was consistency between the regional plans and this plan. So just wanted to commend you all on that. I thought it was a great collaborative effort, and this is truly a great plan. And good job to everyone.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Bill. Appreciate that. And yeah, appreciate that coordination as well. Every 4 years, right? We update those regional plans, and it's always a good input, source of input for us when we do our statewide one too. So we definitely looked at all of those when we did this. All right, I don't see any other hands up, so I'll stop sharing and we can go back to the normal slides here. I think the next item on the agenda is administrative matters, so turn it over to Charlie.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So we have a couple admin updates for you, and perhaps to circle back to an earlier discussion item. So first on our list is what seems to be a very popular event. The end of April and the beginning of May is the 2024 MassDOT Transportation Innovation Conference. The bad news is the in-person capacity has been reached, but the good news is a virtual attendance option is available. So this is always a great event, and we encourage folks to attend. So next slide. Next slide. So one of the items that MassDOT is hosting in the upcoming weeks is some public information sessions on the Cape Cod Bridge program. One is on April 25th at 6 p.m. and that's a Zoom meeting. Details are here on your staff report. And I note that in the chat of this meeting, we did post this entire link to the entire MPO staff report. Next slide. And this is an in-person open house on May 13th. There are 2 sessions at the Born Veterans Memorial Community Center, 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. and then 5 to 8 p.m. Next slide. And those encouraged or enlightened or interested in the TIP, Transportation Improvement Program, and all of those great projects and the record amount of investment over the upcoming 5 years, might be wondering how do I get a TIP project? Well, this might be one of the checkpoints. MassDOT has this MassDOT project intake tool, and it's not just for TIP projects. It's also about Chapter 90 and streets, and there's a multifaceted training upcoming. There are 2 dates. One is May 7th and the other is May 16th, and there's a link in your staff report to register. Next slide. And we heard a little bit about this earlier from Derek, talking about the Federal Funds and Infrastructure Office. The Healy administration has stood this department up to help Massachusetts be as competitive as it can be to pursue federal discretionary grants. So their next federal funds partnership meeting is April 23rd at 2 p.m. And there's a registration here. You can sign up to receive notices of this important not only meeting itself, but they send out a newsletter and different grant opportunities, and their website has a whole list of information. So this is a great resource. So next slide. Next slide. So before we jump into dates and times of the next meeting, I just wanted to circle back. It crossed our minds is after Bill had talked about the TIP amendment number 3 and, looking for projects for potentially spending those additional regional dollars that are unallocated. One of the things you might have seen in the news or in media is up in Duxbury on Route 3A, Cox Corner, 3A 139. So OCPC is going to reach out to District 5 to see if there's any opportunity for any type of safety improvements or way to use some of those funds towards safety improvements for projects in Duxbury.
And Charlie?
Yep.
There is a 3A project happening this year, right?
Yep.
Is there a project on 3A in general happening this year?
I don't.
In 2027, we have the ramps,
No, I thought that Mass DOT was doing something on 3A this year as a regional project.
We'll circle back. I know MassDOT had circled back to the legislators that were asking about Cox Corner and the Duxbury Highway Safety Committee. I know there was a briefing provided back by MassDOT. I think you're right, President Coletta, that there is some type of a project there, but it's lower cost. But I believe the town was looking for a larger cost, perhaps a blinker or a signal or enhanced improvements beyond what was currently proposed.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm just wondering if maybe they could use their planned project to, add to a planned project. It might make it more possible this year.
Mm-hmm. And then just our last item here is to save the date of upcoming MPO meetings. You can see a series of the next one is May 21st at 10 a.m. And we encourage your attendance as this is an important season as the certification documents are going through their public review and comment periods and other ones are being released. So that's what we have, and certainly turn it back to the chair and for any questions or from the chair and or any of the attendees.
Thanks, Charlie. Any questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you. We'll move on to adjournment. So I'll ask for a motion and second to adjourn.
So moved, Dan from Whitman.
There's a second.
I'll second that, James Downey, Plymouth.
All right. I think we can do a voice vote here. So all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. I
My
think
dog
without
says
objection.
hi.
Oh, excellent. Hello. Without objection, we're adjourned. So thank
Okay,
you,
thank you.
everyone. Enjoy the nice weather, and we'll see you back here in May to endorse the tip. So bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.